Go inside the studio with the Ricky Harris Media Podcast. Here's your host, Ricky Harris.
Welcome back. Thank you, guys and gals, and everyone for listening to this show. No matter where you are, and no matter what level you are in your career. And again, I do not want to be misleading in this podcast in the motivational aspect of it. I do not want you to quit your day job or your night job if you are very comfortable where you're at. That would be silly, right? The media industry has changed dramatically over the years. And I will say, for those, and I put me in that group because I am like 95% a consumer of media, and about 5% contribute to it now. It took a back seat in my life. But as the consumer, we have the upper hand here as far as the amount of content available at our disposal. Now, cost-wise, of course, the cost of streaming is starting to come up. And really, when you weigh everything out, run the numbers, it ends up being about even if you were to subscribe to everything that you have on your current cable package, let's say. It could be satellite, any kind of all you can eat linear television streaming package, because anymore streaming and linear is kind of all mixed together. So really it ends up being the same price, right? But what do we have now? We have the ability, for the most part, we can pick and choose what we want to spend our money on. We have an incredible choice as a consumer of media now. And again, those of you that are in media as your full-time gig will absolutely have a better understanding of this. But this is my observations over the years. And it is because of internet delivery. It has made all of this possible. And AI is a whole nother discussion, right? Oh, you know my stance on AI. I appreciate it helping the worker out. And that could be any worker in any field, making their job less of a pain, repetitive things. Absolutely. But as far as creativity, as far as what is on the screen or in a book, anything creative, I think it's always important to have a huge influence from human beings, because we can all put our own take on something, put our heads together, and make something that is very real. Or, if it's fictional, make it seem very real. And again, I know, I always preface this by saying I'm very picky. CGI is one of those things, I think it's kind of like anything, when you know the insides and, you create it. It's kind of one of those things you can't unsee. To me, CGI looks like it's always about half resolution of what, the actual program is. Let's say you're at 4K. CGI always looks like it's on, HD, where the rest of the program is in 4K. And it's the same way back in the HD days. Wow, we're still in the HD days. But it seems like such a long time ago when we were making the transition to HD as far as media in every form. It was like that too. It was like, oh, I got HD here. Let's put the CGI on here. And it looks like it was, still 480p or 480i. I was like, what? What the heck? It's one of those things you don't notice. But one thing I have noticed with the advances of CGI, and I put chroma-key in that same category because it is CGI in a way. Chroma-key being like a weather person in front of a map, a blue or traditionally blue or green wall. And that effect is used tremendously in film. That little line around them, right? The line between real and fake, basically. Or, the blending of the two worlds, because fake is kind of a weird term, right? Fake could be computer generated. CGI, computer generated imagery, right? But that line between what you're capturing in the camera and what is put in there in post-production. Okay. Very technical, right? That line that separates, for lack of better terms, real and fake. It always looked kind of jagged, right? It was like, in standard definition, you could always tell. It was, chroma key was always so obvious. At least to me it was. It was like, oh yeah, they're in front of a green wall or a blue wall. Not the case. I've noticed that with HD, especially very low compression HD, that line really started to go away, literally started to blur. And with 4K, it's like, wow. And of course, I know we as the film community, and I consider myself part of the film community because I have that passion. And I was talking to a fellow worker, cinematographer on the last set that I was on about that. You got to have that passion. I absolutely agree with that statement. You have to have that passion. And you see it. And it's a wonderful thing to see that. And it's this sense of community when you're on the set. I love that. But anyway, that is really something. Seeing the advancements in technology, and that's one of those things that I will always appreciate because it makes this form of entertainment more obtainable to the independent filmmaker, to the independent content creator. And again, all of this is very obtainable using what you have on your phone. But I always thought it's very important to put out a quality product, right? Because when you put your name to it, especially when you're in a credited role, your name's on the credits, you are part of this production. You want it to be awesome, right? You want it to really show what you're capable of. And again, that moment in time, you may not have the skill sets quite nailed down. And a lot of it has to do with what works with you too. And that's another great thing about production in the digital age. You can kind of tailor all of this to make it fit what you like. A good example of that is what I'm doing right now. You can probably hear a little bit of the room sound, right? I changed everything back up. I am not in the studio anymore. No, not just for this episode. I figured, why not change it up? And also demonstrate how technique can really make you overcome not so ideal environments. So right now I'm in the living room in front of the TV, sitting on the couch, and the cat, Stevie, named after Stevie Nicks, is right to my left, and she is sound asleep. She's been asleep. My television choices and apparently my podcast puts her right to sleep. No, she normally sleeps during the day. And so I figure, why not record in here where it's nice and comfortable and also demonstrate a real world scenario? It is not economically feasible to put up acoustic treatment in a dedicated room. I would say for most people, that are wanting to put out a good product on social media, right? Let's say audio, because that's kind of my specialty. No, but there are different techniques that you can do, as I demonstrated before, but I really wanted to give you an idea, kind of a worst case scenario. This room has no acoustic treatment. Everything in here is set up to be comfortable, to be set up to watch TV, it's a living room, right? Acoustics, again, this is my living room. Yes, it was a thought to some degree, but it's like 2%, right? Because that's not the purpose of this room. But with good technique, and what I'm doing now is I placed the microphone. Now, I first had it over on my dining table, and that was an echo mess. It sounded like I was in a warehouse. It still has a little bit of that trail, you can hear it, of the echo. But I went over here on the couch. I figured, well, this very plushy couch is probably going to kill a lot of that drone, that rumble. And again, this is very subjective, of course, too, because sometimes you may want that sound. You want it to sound like you're recording in the house because it makes it sound more real, right? Yeah. But you don't want it to be so distracting that it makes the show sound unprofessional. Again, about putting a quality product out there that it has your name on, that you're proud of. I think that's very important. What do you think? And I did change things up again, but I went with another $100 microphone. And this particular microphone, in its newest fashion, is still right at $100. The Rode NT1. This particular one, I wanted to go with the original because I've never had a Rode NT1. A Rode NT1 is a very famous and popular home studio recording microphone. So I wanted to get the original one. So I got it secondhand online, $100. So I went through and pieced up my entire setup here. So I have a Rode NT1, a shock mount, a furry little windscreen, desktop mic stand, field audio recorder, headphones, and an SD card. Everything together come out to $265. $265. Again, my field audio recorder, microphone are secondhand. So I saved a little bit of money there. But I wanted to give you guys and gals a very good, realistic approach to recording podcasting that not only is realistic as far as a budget goes, but also to kind of keep you in that zone. Because it can get overwhelming because you look at it, you look at some podcaster setups. They have, this massive, 48 channel, let's say as an example, a 48 input audio interface, a computer, acoustic treatment, really nice mics, boom arms, all this stuff, studio furniture. But really, when you're doing audio, especially when audio is the main point of it, a lot of that's not necessary starting out. I mean, yes, that is nice to have. It really is cool. It makes the process of doing one less tedious, yes. But starting out, I would say right around $250, $265. And you have a setup that will serve you well. And I would say that's probably about the cheapest way you could go and still get good results. Now, technique, as I said earlier, I placed the microphone in the room where it sounded good, but also aiming the microphone is very important. So I put the mic facing my chest and I'm kind of talking across the diaphragm, and I am very close to the mic. That close miking really will help you, like I've talked about on the last show. But you also have to be aware of what's called the proximity effect. The proximity effect is a phenomenon that happens the closer you talk to a directional microphone, the more enhanced, the more boomy the bass will become. Sometimes that's what you want, but if you don't account for that, someone listening to, as an example, a car with a really powerful subwoofer, that's going to get annoying, right? Every time you talk, you're going to hear that subwoofer shake and your rear view mirror shake, and it's going to be tedious to listen to. So you have to apply filters or EQ or a combination of both in your audio chain to help mitigate that proximity effect. So it doesn't sound like that. It doesn't sound muddy and boomy. I was doing more research about reflections because reflections are very important in your recording. Very early on when I was thinking, well, why do a lot of professional studios have a very dead room, or at least have one room that's very dead? And again, that is to have basically an empty slate, a blank canvas to record something. You don't want the room to influence the sound. That's a bulk of it, because especially anymore with the availability of plugins and just what's built into the basic digital audio workstation, you can add EQ. Sorry, not EQ. Well, yeah, EQ, but you can add reverb to make it sound like it's in a space that it's not. But when you have an unpredictable acoustic environment where you have these reflections influencing your sound and it's not consistent, that makes the process of post-processing very, very tedious. So, Ricky. Yeah, here comes Ricky giving you another homework assignment. But it's fun again, right? Go play some pool, right? Playing pool, the way the ball bounces around on the pads will teach you a lot about how sound reflects off of walls, any kind of hard surface. That will show you kind of the mindset to think about when you're placing your acoustic treatment. And your acoustic treatment could be anything. Really anything that kind of breaks up a bunch of flat surfaces really helps. It's kind of funny. I kind of discovered this by accident in my old bedroom studio way back when I was really first getting interested in this. I just found it fascinating. I want to say the Beatles recordings, the way they did a lot of the innovation that they did, that was originally what really got me interested in it, and I wanted to try it myself. So a lot of my recording was that process, recording stereo or 4-track, just live to tape. In that case, it was recording to the computer, but using a 2-channel interface, little RCA inputs, the old Sound Blaster, I think, a little USB. Yeah, I think that was the first one I used that had some decent sound quality to it. That was my workflow, just recording stereo out of the mixer. So my mix was just kind of is what it was. And that's the way what recording was back then in the early 60s. You recorded stereo or split track, 2-track, just straight in. And then, well, by the time you're done, layering, I hope everything was okay with the mix that you did first, because there was nothing you could do about it. You're committed at that point. And so, yeah, just rambling. I get excited about this stuff, right? It's fun for me. Creating something in your head, it's in your head, right? You have an idea, and then make it into reality. And that's everything. Really anything. Making anything. It's always been so fascinating to me, and it's always such a wonderful thing. And I get that with fixing and repairing things too. You get it in your head. Well, I could do this and it would probably work, and you could go do it, and then you're like, hey, it worked. Now that is a great feeling. It's a very satisfying feeling. And I think those of you that are in the industry of media, in content creation in general, I hope you experience that too. That feeling of satisfaction when you have something in your head and you see it come to life. It's great. Get out there and record something. This is the Ricky Harris Media Podcast, and we'll see you guys and gals next time. And if you want to leave a comment on this show, you can do it on YouTube. You can do it on your favorite podcast app. And please rate this show. I greatly appreciate it. Give it a review. What do you think about it? And let me know what you think about this show. And if you want to come on the show, I already got a request for a guest to come on this show, and greatly appreciate them throwing that out there. We're going to do that. We're getting that all set up right now. So, and if you want me on your show, I would love to do it too. Just reach out to me. And the best way to reach me really is Twitter. It's Ricky Radio, or by email address, which I did give out on the last show. Thank you guys and gals for listening. This is Ricky Harris Media Podcast. See you. Bye.